There are many, though, who seem to believe that our job is simply to vote every 4 years, and then, because every 2 years is too exhausting, and then, like, sit back and wait for everything to be changed. And we're beginning to realize that's not how it works. That we need to bring our own energy and our own resources to bear on what is happening. Otherwise, nothing will really change. And it's always been that way. My favorite story illustrating that is the meeting that Martin Luther King had with Lyndon Johnson in March 1965, when Martin Luther King went into the White House to ask for the Voting Rights Act. And Lyndon Johnson said, we don't have the votes, because that's what politicians always say. And then Martin Luther King went out to the people again, and then came the Selma March, and in August, a few months later, we had the Voting Rights Act. So that's really the power of the people. And again, with everything that needs to happen, it won't happen without that power being exercised. And it has an ideological pedigree, again, that goes beyond left and right. Whether you are, if you're a conservative, you can quote Edmund Burke and his belief in the little platoons. If you're a liberal, you can quote the need for compassion and the need to bring everyone together and bridge differences and create the equality of conditions that de Tocqueville marveled at all these years ago when he wrote about America. And it starts at the local level. And that's the great thing about new technologies, that we can start at the local level, and through technologies, we can connect with each other across the country. Now, the other key right now is trust. And again, Craig Newmark says that trust is the new black. And nothing is missing at the moment from our public life more than trust. And in order to recreate trust, we need to bring in more transparency. And again, the new technologies can dramatically help here. The Sunlight Foundation is doing amazing work, exposing who is buying whom among politicians and special interests. Polygraph is one of the projects that they have launched that can actually tell you, as you are reading something, how much money a politician has received from a special interest. I don't know how many of you watched the healthcare debate at Blair House, when actually a bubble would go up whenever a politician, a member of Congress or a senator would be speaking, telling you how much money they had received from the healthcare industry. What I love about that is that it's instant. And when I look into my crystal ball, that's the favorite technology that I want to see progress to an even higher level, which is to be able to have an instant bubble go up whenever a politician is speaking. Whatever they say, an instant fact check, not after the fact. I don't want like PolitiFact fact-checking them after the show is over. I want them being fact-checked as they're speaking on the Sunday shows. Wouldn't that be fun? You may start getting a lot fewer of them actually agreeing to participate in the shows. So if you look at accountability, transparency, and innovation, the more we actually open up all these new technologies, the more we can innovate and create a new ecosystem that will get us into the new era. Because right now we still have government operating with so many of sort of the 19th century tools that are completely irrelevant to a 21st century economy. And as we are listening to the national conversation, the main emphasis right now is on our deficits. You know, we're talking about the federal deficit, we're talking about the shortage of jobs, but as I go around the country, I'm amazed by our surpluses. We have an overabundance of skills, of time, and of resources. So the question is, how can we use modern technologies and social media to capture them and to scale them and to bring people together in a way that we could not have done with such speed in another era? That's, for me, where the hope is. And so, as I found myself pessimistic, like many of us, about the crisis in confidence, about the crisis in government, about the demonization of government, I look around and see the incredible unleashing of creativity, innovation, and caring. And that's where I see the promise, and that's where I see the hope. And I know that as we're running late, I know that Vivek has a meeting he has to go to, and I don't want you to be shortchanged and not have to hear all of what he has to say. So I just want to wrap up what I want to say by asking all of you who are involved in some way or another in making government better to look around at what's happening at the local level and to use the spotlight to illustrate and inspire others by giving them more oxygen. And the media have a huge responsibility here. A lot of us in the media are much better at producing data than telling stories. And the way to actually capture the public imagination is to tell more stories and repeat fewer data. I know that at the Huffington Post 2 years ago, we asked a reporter, Arthur Delaney, to start doing just one thing, putting flesh and blood on the data. So he became like a hub where people would send him their stories of what was happening. And when you read the stories, that's when you begin to understand why there's so much economic anxiety out there. And because there is so much economic anxiety, and there is nothing more dangerous in a democracy than that economic anxiety when people begin to operate from their lizard brains, from their fear instead of from rationality. Because of that, it's all the more important to spotlight the countervailing force of people doing good, helping each other, being creative, creating jobs for themselves, for others, and in the process, actually coming together and tapping, instead of tapping into our basest instincts, tapping into our better angels. And that's where the hope is. And let me just end by telling you of my day in Atlanta on Friday when the unemployment data came out, and we were all dealing with the fact that it was pretty bad. And I was in Atlanta speaking at Coca-Cola, and I was talking to a woman who had a good job, but her sister, who was a single mom with 2 kids, had lost her job. And I realized that the economic anxiety goes beyond the 26 million people who are out of work or unemployed and are looking to government for solutions, and it spread to those who are family members or friends, or who are simply worried that they're going to be next. So if government does the best it can do to become transparent, to provide the data that the citizens need, and at the same time, if we do a better job, those of us in the media, to spotlight what is working, then we'll be able to take this crisis that we're going through and turn it into a real opportunity. So thank you so much, and now it is my pleasure to introduce Vivek Kundra. So, as it happens by coincidence, Vivek has been picked by the Huffington Post as one of our 2010 game changers. And I'm going to first quickly read you the entry, why we picked him as a game changer, then tell you a few things more about him. So we're saying that he changed the game by trying to fix all the president's computers. In March 2009, he was appointed by President Obama as the Officer of Management and Budget's Chief Information Officer, basically the techie-in-chief, responsible for better information sharing and access to government data. His open government initiative was behind the launch of data.gov, the new one-stop shop for information produced by the federal government. He's also tried to make life easier for agencies with apps.gov, which provides bureaucrats in all agencies a shot at cloud computing programs that will, if all goes according to plan, allow them to shed those creaky 15-year-old email systems with little cost or lost information. Thanks to Vivek, the federal government is finally entering the 21st century.